Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 362 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, my good friend Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, brother. That is the truth. Going to dive straight into the review part of the show. There was a hell of a lot to go over from last week, so let's dive straight into it. Friday last week, the 16th of September at the Montreal Casino in Quebec, Canada. It was live on ESPN+. One fight to mention on the undercard, Stephen Butler with a good win. He's now 31-3 with a draw, a TKO in round 2 against Mark the Bazooka DeLuca, who's now 28-4, former victim of Kell Brook. That one was for the North American Boxing Federation middleweight title, the NABF title, and the main event, Arslanbek Makhmudov, now 15-0. He goes the distance for the very first time in his career against Carlos Takam over 10 rounds there. Takam now 39-7 with a draw. It was for the NABF and the NABA heavyweight titles, along with the WBC silver heavyweight title. Takam down in round 1 and round 7. I did watch the fight. I don't think you did, Eddie, so I'm going to roll straight into what I saw. Round 1, obviously Takam down in the first 20 seconds. We were thinking, oh dear, what has happened here? He basically took a good shot and he was trapped in the corner, struggling to defend himself and struggling to keep Makhmudov, this big powerhouse, off of him. So he very smartly decided to take a knee. He wasn't really hurt. He took the knee. He voluntarily took the knee. And he decided to lose that round 10-8. Just to pretty much get through that moment where he really lost control. And I've wrote in my notes that he knew that this was very unlikely going to be going to the score cards anyway. So it wouldn't really matter that he lost 10-8. Well, in the end it kind of did. But anyway, round 2, Takam landed some lovely, nice left hooks. Makhmudov was very upright. His chin was hung out to dry at times. The stance as well of Makhmudov kind of reminds me of David Price, which I didn't really like to see. Round 3, Takam was making Makhmudov walk into numerous big right hooks. Makhmudov looked very clumsy, again, a la David Price. Round 4, 5 and 6 were arguably rounds for Carlos Takam. He was possibly ahead on the cards, I felt, in my book. Round 7, Takam was, I felt, well on the way to winning the round. He was having a great round, actually, and then he did at some point start to kind of put a dent in Makhmudov, I felt, and that's when he ended up missing with a shot, and momentarily he got caught with both of his arms through the ropes, and he kind of spun back around quickly, and as he spun back around, he walked straight into a chopping right hand. It was a little bit lucky, to be totally honest, from Makhmudov, because, like I say, Takam just spun around, boom. And yeah, Takam goes down, loses another 10-8 round, and it was the last punch of the round. So Takam went straight back to his corner. But yeah, it was quite unlucky, really, because he was on the way to winning that 7th round. Round 8, I felt, was a Takam round. Round 9, I gave to Makhmudov. Round 10, Makhmudov walked into a massive overhand right early in the round. Takam, for me, won that round as well. Makhmudov, like we say, went the distance for the first time in 15 fights. He was 14-0 with 14 KOs. He looked so beatable, though. He ended up, like I say, getting it in the end on the cards, 96-92 twice and 97-91. Really bad scorecards, I felt. I haven't tallied it up, but, I mean, God, Takam, I think just about, I might have had it probably about a draw, or I might have had Takam nicking it by about a round. too wide on the cards for me. And those knockdown rounds, I think, were pivotal. And I felt that even though he won, we kind of saw Makhmudov get a little bit exposed, maybe. And I'd like to see him. It would be a fun fight. I'd like to see him in with Big Bang Zilly Zhang. That one would be interesting between the two fighters. Doubt we're going to see it. It doesn't really make much sense, but I like fights sometimes that don't make any sense, and that's sometimes the best fights that can be made. Moving out now to this one, it was also on the Friday night at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, the mecca of boxing. Denzel Bentley 17-1 with a draw, a TKO in round 4 against Marcus Morrison, who's now 25-6. Morrison cut above the right eye. It was a defence there of Bentley's British middleweight title. Yeah, I mean, I was quite impressed with Bentley. I really was quite impressed with Bentley. Because I expected, and I think I said it on last week's show, I expected Denzel Bentley to win on points. I expected the fight definitely to go into the second half, and I thought it was going to probably go the distance. Morrison did have a couple moments, I think, in round 1 and 2, but other than that, Bentley really impressed me, and he becomes only the second man to get the stoppage over Morrison. Bentley is exciting. I think there's some big fights available for him domestically. As for Morrison, a little bit gutted, really, because, like I said, I've never really rated him too highly, but I don't know what it is. I just feel a bit sorry for him, to be honest. I don't think he's had the greatest of times recently. I mean, he lost every round to Chris Eubank Jr., then got knocked out by Zach Parker, then gets knocked out by Denzel Bentley. Perhaps he's looking retirement dead in the face. But yeah, I don't think I've never rated him, but I don't think he's that awful. I just think they keep throwing him to the wolves a little bit, really. I think he was the guy that went on the road to Italy and scored a big upset win, and I was so happy for him that night, but I think that's going to be the biggest night and the best night of his career from his point of view. What else did we have? On the undercard, we had Ellis Zorro move to 15-0, a points win over 8 rounds against Dex Spellman. Dex Spellman was down in round 4. He's now 18-6. I really enjoyed this fight, to be honest with you. I think Zorro was the more skilled boxer. Spellman, though, does have that dog in him, and it can come out if it's needed. And if he's trailing in a fight, then you'll be sure to see it. Zorro was racking up the rounds early on, and Spellman did rally back, and he did turn it into a dogfight, and Zorro's face was a bloody mess. He did weather the storm, and he did finish the fight fairly strong, and he answered a lot of questions, I felt. I think Zorro's a good addition to the super talented domestic scene at light heavyweight. Spellman is somewhat of a domestic gatekeeper, even though it's a little bit harsh. But yeah, Zorro passed that test, I felt, and had to answer some questions, had to come through some torrid times in the fight. Like I say, his face was all battered and bruised within one round at one point, and he came through it. So yeah, I'm excited to see him again. Elsewhere on the undercard, we had a huge upset. Frank Arnold, now 9-1 with a draw. He was knocked out by the massive underdog, the journeyman, really, Brian Morena, who's now 12-30 with a draw. Arnold down heavily in round 3, and then I think he was TKO'd in the round after that. I believe Morena was a 10-1 underdog, and that one was just for him to win, not to actually knock his opponent out. So the odds on that would have been absolutely off the charts. That would have been crazy if you backed that one. No one saw it coming, of course. That's about it really for that one. Moving out now to the Emperor's Palace in Kempton Park, South Africa. Over here, this one was on the Saturday night. We had Kevin Lerena, now 28-1, an expected unanimous decision over 12 rounds against the teak tough Marius Wack, who's now 36-9. It was for the IBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title. Complete shutout on 2 cards for Lorena, and the other card 118-110, so very wide in the end, it would suggest, for Lorena. I didn't see the fight. Moving out now to the Bolton Whites Hotel in Lancashire, United Kingdom. This one was live on Channel 5. Good fight really between Gavin Gwynn and Craig Woodruff. It was for the British lightweight title. Gwynn cut above the left eye in the 11th round. Woodruff was a massive underdog, because you take one look at his record, and it was 12-6 going in, and you kind of think, nah, like he's probably not going to beat Gavin Gwynn. But a lot of insiders were saying, hey, this is a really, really close fight here. Do not write Woodruff off. And they were right to say that. It ended in a majority draw, 2 judges having it 114-114, and Terry O'Connor 116-113 to Gavin Gwynn. So a really good fight, very evenly matched, and the scorecards prove that. So 15-2 with a draw, Gavin Gwynn, and Craig Woodruff 12-6 with a draw. On the undercard, Lyndon Arthur with a TKO win in the 6th round against Walter Sequeira, former opponent of Anthony Yarde, now 25-10 with a draw. I always expected this one to go into the second half. I thought it could have even gone points because it was only an 8-rounder, but yeah, Lyndon Arthur gets the stoppage in the end. Friend of the show, now 20-1. Elsewhere on the undercard, I think he was a late addition to the card if I'm not mistaken, but Troy Williamson now 19-0 with a draw, a TKO in round 6 against David Benitez, who's now 8-8. His corner threw the towel in round 6. Troy Williamson, off the back of that, it seems like he's going to be fighting friend of the show, Josh Kelly. I think they're talking about December, somewhere in the northeast. No real date, 100% nailed down just yet for it, but it's going to be a great all-domestic fight there and an all-northeast fight there, really. So that's going to be really exciting for later in the year, just before Christmas. Moving out now to the big one. It happened, of course, at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Just to confirm, Eddie, before we get onto this card, you didn't see any of the action that I mentioned before. You didn't see Makhmudov and Takam. Obviously, you didn't see anything in the UK, I'm assuming.
Not anything in UK, but I saw a few of the fights on here, on this card, but reception was bad. It was hard for me to actually watch more than a few seconds here and there. So, but I did watch it and I did my best, so I can give some kind of analysis to what happened.
Okay, but you didn't see the Takam fight from Friday night, did you? I'm assuming no.
No.
Okay.
I didn't. I missed it.
Okay, I will proceed then with the T-Mobile Arena Las Vegas card. I'll come to you in a second, Eddie. Going to start with the undercard. Let's start with this one here. A KO win in round 5 for Mark Castro, now 8-0. A win there against Kevin Mendoza, who's now 7-2 with 2 draws. Diego Pacheco now 16-0. A TKO in round 5 against Enrique Collazo, who's now 16-3 with a draw. That one was for the WBC United States super middleweight title. Collazo down, I think prior to the stoppage. I can't remember exactly now. Ali Akhmedov with a win as well. He's now 19-1. He completely pitched a shutout on all 3 judges' scorecards against Gabe Rosado, who racks up his 16th loss. He's now 26-16 with a draw. It was for the IBF North American and WBC Silver super middleweight titles. Good win for Ali Akhmedov, because I said there could be a few demons there from being knocked out by Carlos Gongora, and I think someone with the experience of Gabe Rosado, and someone, I guess, with that kind of don't care attitude, like you're not going to phase, nothing's really going to phase Gabe Rosado. So I always kind of felt that if he's a bit worried at any point, Akhmedov, then Rosado will take full advantage of it. But no, Akhmedov boxed a really good fight, looked really good, very impressive. I certainly think he's one to watch in the future. Austin Williams with a win, now 12-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against the UK's Kieran Conway, now 18-3 with a draw. It was for the WBA International Middleweight title. Conway down in round 9, scores of 97-92 twice and 96-93. I think fair scorecards really in the end. We always knew what we were going to get from Conway. Is extremely, extremely tough. Was never going to get steamrolled. I always thought that Austin Williams would win on points, and he did. Elsewhere on the card, Bam Rodriguez, now 17-0, a unanimous decision over 12 against Israel Gonzalez, who's now 28-5 with a draw. It was a defense there of Rodriguez's WBC World Super Flyweight title. Bam Rodriguez actually deducted a point in round 8 for a low blow. I think he landed about 2 or 3 in that round. weird fight, really, because we all kind of expected him to maybe blow away Gonzalez, but it was no secret that he didn't really want to fight Gonzalez. And also, he's been extremely active recently, and they're even talking about getting him out once again before the year's up, and he just looked tired. I think they need to kind of just calm down, let the guy relax, don't burn him out so quickly. There's no need to. He's a nailed-on superstar. So yeah, give him a little bit of a break. But anyways, Gonzalez did start fast and he picked up a bunch of the early rounds, and Bam did come back into it in the mid rounds. He seemed to get his timing right. Gonzalez was able to frustrate Bam as the rounds went on though, and that is where Bam threw those low blows in that 8th round, as I mentioned. So he had a point deducted, like I say, for I think it was the second one, which then made him grow quite desperate and made him leave himself open at times to be countered. At that point, I don't think anyone really knew what the scorecards were, because like I say, Gonzalez started well, racked up a bunch of rounds seemingly, and then Bam Rodriguez loses a 10-8 round. So it was kind of crazy. There were a lot of close rounds. There was a lot of rounds in there that was hard to score. And Gonzalez, I think, fought a much better fight than pretty much anyone gave him credit for going in. Round 11, Gonzalez went down as well. This was a bit weird. He went down from an apparent low blow again. He goes down. There's no count. So Queensland Bayless gets him up straight away and makes him carry on. Now, they were saying on the commentary, and they're quite right, if it was a low blow, a point should have been took off of Bam. That's what Gonzalez was on the floor claiming. So if the punch was low, he should probably have another point taken off. If it wasn't low, which Kenny Bayless didn't rule it as low, then there should have been a count, and he's been knocked down. The replays did show, though, that it was low. So yeah, if Bam had that 10-8 round against him again there, it would have been mad. But yeah, I don't think it even would have mattered in the end, because the scorecards were absolutely horrendous. 2 of them anyway. Tim Cheatham, 118-109. Max DeLuca, 117-110. And Patricia Morse-Jarman, much more accurate, 114-113. So yeah, that 118-109 scorecard there from Tim Cheatham has honestly gone down with people are fuming about it, and even myself, I think that's arguably the single worst scorecard I've ever seen in my entire life. That was so bad. There's no way in the world that I think you could give him. I think I worked it out mathematically. That would mean that Bam Rodriguez won 11 of the rounds, absolutely 11 of the 12 rounds, and the other round that Gonzalez won, or the only round that Gonzalez won in Tim Cheatham's mind, was the round where Bam had a point deducted. That's the only way you can do it. So literally, he gave Gonzalez that round 10-8, and then he gave the other 11 rounds to Bam Rodriguez. It's just criminal, and something needs to be done about this awful judging. But anyway, moving up to the main event, Saul Canelo Alvarez now 58-2 with 2 draws. Gennady Golovkin now 42-2 with a draw. A unanimous decision over 12 there for Saul Canelo Alvarez. I don't know if he was already undisputed. I really can't remember. I think he was. But yeah, it was for the IBF, WBA, WBO and WBC super middleweight world titles. Round 1, a Canelo round. It was just a feel-out round. I haven't actually totaled up my scorecard. This will be interesting. Round 2, a Canelo round. Golovkin was being beaten to the punch. No one was really going too hard at that point. Golovkin clearly, after just 2 rounds, seemed to be the much slower fighter, the much more flat-footed fighter. Round 3, Canelo, I felt, was starting to open up a bit more. Golovkin was being backed up, which is a rare sight, really. Golovkin at times was just plodding forward, walking into punches, not jabbing his way in, looking really, really flat-footed. And it was an easy fight to score. It was all Canelo through the first 3. Round 4, I felt that Golovkin continued to look bad. He looked really rusty, he looked really old. It was one-way traffic. He looked less than a shell of his former self. Canelo once again in full control, really easily as well. He didn't seem like he had to do much to win a round. Round 5, once again, Canelo opening up on Triple G. Triple G already, I felt, needed to win every round from this point onwards to win on the cards. And obviously we know that going to the cards against Canelo hasn't proved successful for him in the past. I was dumbfounded by his approach and his game plan. It was almost as if he'd bet on himself to lose on points. Round 6 was a close round. I wasn't sure if I was being a little bit sympathetic towards Golovkin, but he did let his hands go a little bit more. He landed a nice uppercut under the guard of Canelo at one point. Close round though. Round 7 I gave to Canelo. Round 8 I gave to Canelo, but Triple G was coming out his shell a bit more. He threw one of his trademark, I want to say downer cuts, Eddie, because he likes to throw those kind of shots that come down on top of your head. But still, Triple G was extremely hesitant, and it was a little bit sad to watch. Round 9, finally Triple G seemed to wake up. He was backing up Canelo for the first time in the fight. He had him on the ropes at times. He was still a little bit hesitant to overcommit. There wasn't enough urgency either, because he did need a knockout in my book. I did give him, though, that ninth round. Round 10 was very close. I felt Triple G was still kind of fighting, or trying to fight like, a version of himself from about 8 years ago, but he just didn't have it. He couldn't put it all together like he once was able to. Round 11 was a close round, probably a Triple G round, and then round 12, the final round, another close one. Which I didn't really score. So again, my scoring wasn't strict as such. I'll have a little look back for it when you're talking about the fight, Eddie, but it goes the distance again. No knockdowns again. 36 rounds the pair have now shared. You could almost double your money if you bet that there wouldn't be a single knockdown. I did bet on that. I couldn't believe the price of that bet there. Neither man had ever really hurt one another, I didn't think. Obviously, neither man had ever been down as well. I think Gennady Golovkin has progressively got worse each fight that he's had with Canelo. Like I say, the first one I thought he won. The second one I felt was a draw. This one was clearly won by Canelo. No argument. It's the only fight of the 3 that he's definitively won clear. And yeah, that 4-year gap since the last fight was just far too long for Triple G. Canelo has progressed. Triple G has digressed. It doesn't mean he wasn't one of the best fighters of his era. I think he was, and he is, Golovkin. But yeah, I felt that could be the end of the road for him. Obviously, he talks about going back down to 160. Still holds world titles there. Some people want to see him carry on. Some people don't. I don't want to see him lose to someone that he would have probably knocked out in a couple of rounds a few years ago. I don't think he should go on for much longer. He is 40 years of age. And yeah, you can really see it in recent times. Canelo's still a bad mother bleep. Was it an all-time great trilogy, the 3 fights? I'm not entirely sure. I think the first 2 fights might have put it in the conversation because of the skill level on display. It was out of this world in the first 2 fights, but this third fight was a bit of a letdown, really. Of course, I didn't buy the pay-per-view. It was quite a bad card all in all, as far as pay-per-view undercards go. But yeah, really weird to see the scorecards really close as well. I think on the scorecards it was the closest fight of the 3, which is absolutely absurd. But anyways, what did you make of it, Eddie? And the entire card?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I think I seen the majority. I'll say the majority of the Bam Rodriguez fight, but then again, I can't say that because the reception was so bad that it would literally go in and out, literally 2 or 3 maybe punches, and then every once in a while I might get like half of a round or something. But it looked exactly as you said with Bam Rodriguez, that you didn't know what the heck was going on. You didn't really know who was winning. Bam was doing some good things. He showed, his ability, but this guy came to fight. He wasn't laying down. He wasn't gonna make it easy. He did some crafty things himself, landed some good counter shots. But Bam, he did what his normal thing is. He did a couple nice things, more than a couple nice things, but I really can't really give a definitive thought on the scorecard, even though I did see it was wide. One thing I can say that I didn't see a wide scorecard with that fight either. I thought that fight was a lot closer. Dare I say he was in danger of possibly not necessarily losing, but maybe, could be a draw. Who knows? You know what I mean? Because I didn't see enough of it, but from what I saw, the guy was doing really, really well. And going into the Triple G fight, scorecards were ridiculous. You know what I mean? When I actually heard the score, because I didn't even hear the scores at the moment of the decision because, like I said, the reception was so bad where I was at. But when I heard them and I read what it was, I said, how in the world? Because even from a little bit of each round I was able to see, it was just like in the early go of it, Triple G he wasn't throwing many punches. He wasn't really accurate, or he wasn't active. He wasn't doing the things that he, even if he was throwing one punch at a time kind of thing, you would see him plodding forward more so than going backwards. But this was something completely different. I don't know what his plan was in this fight, but it wasn't working. And Canelo obviously generally picks his shots. He'll throw bombs in there here and there, but it looked like he had Triple G on the back foot a lot more than he's ever been. And that's just not a way for him to fight. He's, from what we're used to seeing, I mean, of course, he's a little older. His time is not what it used to be. So he has to kind of take maybe a few steps back to kind of make sure he can see what's coming. But man, it was just different to see it, even though I couldn't see every aspect of it and everything that went on in each round. It just didn't look like he was doing what he needed to do in order to win the fight. It's tough going to decision with Canelo when you don't have enough rounds in the bank. You know what I mean? But once, like you said, going into that, I think it was a ninth round that I seen where he looked like he kind of, I don't want to say hurt Canelo, but he definitely put him on the back foot and had him thinking a little bit. He was being a little busier. He was showing the Triple G of old a little. Not necessarily what we, where Canelo was moving the whole round and in fear of getting caught and knocked out. But he did have him in a place where he could capitalize. He probably won the round for him. But it just doesn't look like I don't think he'll get back to that level. You know what I mean? I figured he would try to do it to raise his level that he's been fighting at, in the last few fights. He didn't really look as, Triple G like he used to. So, but I figured with this fight and how important it is, and the fact that it's the final fight in the trilogy, and to show people that he's still, who he once was, he would be able to step it up more. But I just don't think he can anymore. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Father Time is undefeated. Triple G, just like any other all-time great, is going to have to face the fact that once you get to a certain age, your body starts to lose that testosterone, you start to deteriorate, and you're not able to keep the level that you used to when you were in your, early 30s and 20s and all of that. So, he did what he could. He tried to show flashes, but it's just wasn't in the cards for him, and I don't think he'll get back to that level in the future. What I would like to see with Triple G going forward is, I would just say, hey, man, get your farewell tour. Get a nice little comfortable fight, a fight that is winnable. Maybe a fight that you can kind of look like you used to kind of give the fans what they remember from you. You know what I mean? Maybe one or two of those, and then you just gracefully bow out. I think you go out a winner and solidify yourself as a Hall of Famer. But any more than that, trying to go and fight these young lions, at this point, it's just not worth it for me. I just think he needs to start to go down a bit and bow out soon.
Yeah, well said, Eddie. And just to reiterate my scoring, I did have time there just to kind of look at it once again. I gave the first 5 rounds to Canelo. The 6th round I felt was a close round. Round 7, Canelo. Round 8, Canelo. Round 9 I gave to Triple G. Round 10 was a close one. Round 11 was close, but I gave it to Triple G. And then round 12 I felt was a close one. So all in all, I think that's like 7-3 for Canelo, and then 2 close ones, which could have gone either way. So I guess if you gave both to Golovkin, then you could have a 115-113 scorecard. But yeah, just overall, looking at the fight as a whole, it didn't look like he came close to those kind of scorecards that we did see in the end from 2 of the 3 judges. But anyway, that brings the review part to a close. That is all for part 1. We've done a hell of a lot of speaking. The final thing for me to do to wrap up this part is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated female featherweight contender. It is, of course, Miss Skye Nicolson. Skye, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Skye. So it's the first time you've been on this podcast, so welcome once again. I am truly a fan of women's boxing. It's always great to get a female fighter on the show. I've watched all of your pro fights, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this.
Awesome.
Excellent, yeah. So you made your pro debut back in March, obviously in San Diego against the undefeated Mexican Jessica Juarez. You won unanimously over 6. Tell me what you recall of your debut. It seems like it's gone so fast.
It has definitely gone fast. It was a really special moment for me, actually. It was obviously my debut, but also my US debut as well. She was a hometown girl in San Diego and Southpaw, so it was definitely not the kind of debut most people go for, but I absolutely had a ball. I was so happy that my parents could be there to watch it. And, obviously won every round, so that was nice too. But, it was the start of a very special journey, so it's a very special memory for me.
Yeah, and like I say, I think everyone that was watching the fight, especially in the UK, staying up early hours, I think myself included, we all kind of thought, okay, this could be a lady that has a bright future. I think you've proved it every time since then. You were out just 3 weeks later in Leeds, obviously, taking on Beck Connolly, who you also beat over 6 rounds. Beck Connolly, ever so tough, really nice lady, but obviously quite limited in her skill set. Tell me about that win for you, Skye.
Yeah, so for me, that wasn't really a fight that I was interested in having. I did want to stay active and I wanted to fight, and I really wanted to fight in the UK. But obviously it was quite short notice and a short turnaround, so the options for opponents were quite limited, especially to get someone with a decent record, obviously on a few weeks' notice. So I took what I could and I used it as a learning fight. I tried to adapt and change my style a little bit and do things a little bit differently from the first fight, and I felt like I did that. I'm obviously very new to the game, the pro scene anyway, and I'm working with a brand new team. We'd only been together 6 weeks before my debut, so no, it was good. It was a good learning fight for me, I think, and I'm grateful for that extra fight that I got to have, because obviously not many people fight back to back 3 weeks after their debut and go again. So I was grateful for the opportunity and to box in front of a very energetic and loud crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, as you say, fighting twice in 3 weeks from your debut to your second fight on both sides of the Atlantic, of course. 5 weeks after that, you're back in the States. This time, the big one. You're fighting, obviously, at the world-famous Madison Square Garden on that Taylor Serrano undercard. What a fight card to be a part of. Another 6-round unanimous decision win, this time over Shaniqua Davis. You had her down with a beautiful 1-2 in the final round. I bet you wish that was a 3-minute round.
Oh, I know. I at least wished it was an 8-rounder, because I felt like I did take a while to warm up. I'm not sure if it was, I guess, the whole kind of experience and the night that I was fighting on, the history kind of making night for women's boxing, but maybe a little bit of a slow start, and I really wished it was 8 rounds when I put her down at the end of the 6th, because I didn't need too much longer, I think. But again, another really good learning experience. Obviously, a great memory to be boxing on such a history-making night and being a part of that history.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, your most recent fight, which was now just over 3 months ago in Wales, in Cardiff, on that Ogawa Cordina undercard. You stepped up to 8 rounds. You picked up a points win over Gabriela Bouvier. Tell me about that one briefly as well. It was obviously good to bank another bunch of rounds.
Yeah, a really good experience again. Obviously, getting an 8-rounder in. I'd only been pro for, 3 months or something at the time. So, no, I was happy with that. She was a former world champion, a winning record, and an experienced seasoned pro. So, no, really good rounds to bank. I feel like those first 4 fights off the cuff were like really good learning months for me, and I felt like it really helped me grow as a boxer and an athlete.
And Skye, tell me, and for people that don't know as well, how did your move to the UK even come about? I mean, how did you end up at the iBox gym of all places training under Eddie Lamb?
It was all a bit random, really. I came back from the Olympics and Turning pro really wasn't ever on my radar. I hadn't written it off completely, but it wasn't really something I was considering or in a rush to do. It's always been about the Olympic gold medal for me, and obviously just falling short of a medal in Tokyo, like I basically had my sights set straight on Paris 2024. But obviously had some promoters, managers all start reaching out after the Olympics, and a conversation with Eddie Hearn kind of got me quite excited about the pro game, about women's boxing, about where it's at right now, and his vision for my career and what Matchroom could kind of offer for me. And it was quite exciting, and I felt like maybe things were getting a bit stale for me in the amateurs, and I needed something new and exciting. And the Australian team actually had a training camp in the UK a couple of months after that Zoom call. So I actually, it all kind of happened then. At the end of last year, I was over here in the UK for a training camp, an amateur boxing training camp, and I met my manager, Paul Reddy. I met Eddie Hearn. I signed with Matchroom. I met Eddie Lamb through my manager. And, just the first time I was in the iBox gym, I just clicked with everyone. I felt like this is where I wanted to be. This is where I needed to be for my boxing. And, just kind of then and there, that was in November, decided to make the move and make it happen. And fast forward to January, I moved here, and I had about 6 weeks training with my new team in a new country on the other side of the world, and went over to the US and won my debut.
It's really cool and interesting to listen to that, because obviously I'm from the UK, and even myself, when I was on my way to the iBox gym a few weeks ago, I must have gone up and down that road about 10 times looking for it. So I wondered how you found it, but that's incredibly cool.
A very little random corner of the world.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. But no, I was at the gym a few weeks ago watching Archie spar, and I got talking to Eddie Lamb as well. Really nice guy, of course. Let's talk about your upcoming fight. It's set for October 15th back home, I guess, in Australia. Your first pro fight, like I say, back home, so to speak. This will mark 5 fights in 3 countries, all within 8 months. You'll be stepping up to 10 rounds for the first time. You'll be boxing for the Commonwealth Featherweight title against Krystina Jacobs. Before we get into the fight itself, tell me what it will mean for you to pick up this title, the Commonwealth title. Obviously, you won a Commonwealth Games gold medal as an amateur. Your late brother also, of course, medalled at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. Obviously, we're calling this one the Homecoming. It's my first pro fight back home in Australia, so my very supportive, loyal Australian fans are going to get to see me fight live, so I'm very excited about that. It's an all-Aussie clash against a good opponent. She's coming to win that fight. She's had this fight locked in. We've had the opponent locked in since about June, so she's had a full preparation in camp as well, and I'm expecting a really, really good fight. Obviously, to win the Commonwealth title back home in front of a home crowd, probably a lot of the same crowd that was there to witness me win the gold medal on the Gold Coast in 2018. It's going to be a very, very special occasion. I can't wait.
No, it sounds exciting, absolutely. Krystina, quite experienced, I guess, not had too many fights, but she's done almost double the rounds you've done as a pro. Will we see a different kind of Skye Nicolson this time? Obviously, we've seen you show kind of a lot of different looks, a lot of different moves. Your feet are incredible. We've seen how you can move around the ring. Are we going to see something a bit different because it's back home? Is there some kind of urgency to do something, maybe go the extra mile, maybe get your first stoppage?
I feel like, obviously, I've been back in camp for about 12 weeks now. We're still just under 4 weeks out, so it's been a long camp, but it's been great. We've actually got to slow things down and really work on new things. We've definitely changed my style a little bit. I'm sitting down on my punches a lot more. I've done an amazing strength and conditioning camp. I feel in the best shape of my life, still 4 weeks out now, and I really, really want to show that in this fight. I've been having some amazing spars. My engine is unbelievable, and I just feel like we're just going to see whole new levels in this fight, and I'm very, very excited to be able to do that back home.
Excellent. And women's boxing as a whole right now is probably on fire more than ever. How happy are you to be a part of it right now while it's hot? And also, who are some of your personal favourite female fighters right now, Skye?
Oh, it's amazing to be a part of it. I feel like such a big honour but responsibility to be a role model for that next generation of girls coming through, to keep growing the sport, to keep seeing that depth and the improvement, like the skill level and that we're seeing now in women's boxing is unbelievable compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think the women's fights are stealing the show a lot of the time these days. And it's really, really exciting. So I'm very, very, very happy and proud to be a part of the movement and the growth of women's boxing. I think probably my favourite female fighter would be Katie Taylor. She's obviously the generation before me. So when I was 12, 13, 14, she was the star that I was looking up to. And even now, still as a pro, she's the star that the girls are looking up to. So it's been a long time for me that she's been a great role model in the sport of boxing, but also as a person outside of the ring. You can't really fault her, and she's an icon for women's boxing.
Yeah, well said, absolutely. And a little bit of a controversial question in some ways, but your fellow Aussie female boxer, Ebanie Bridges, certainly seems to divide opinion. In your opinion, Skye, is she good or bad for boxing itself?
I don't think she's bad for boxing at all. I think she's using boxing to express herself. She's actually a really smart businesswoman, what she's doing. And I think if you're doing the hard work, you're getting in there, you're having entertaining fights, you're winning world titles. So what if she wants to wear what she wears on the scales? I think everyone can do what they want to do. And if that's if that's what she wears and that's what she wants to do, and she's definitely got lots of extra fans from it. So good on her, I guess. Each to their own, you know.
Yeah, no, I think at first everyone kind of, looked upon her a little bit negatively. Then we saw her fighting style. Then we were like, hey, she doesn't mind a war. She is quite exciting. Then now she's got a world title. So I think little by little, everyone's starting to say, hey, she's actually, a good boxer. She's not just something to look at, I guess. Yeah.
And if you see the improvements she's made, she's moved herself to the other side of the world to train in the UK as well now. Yeah. And you can see in her fights the improvements she's made. She's working hard. She's putting in the hours in the gym and she's reaping the rewards for it. So, I don't think you can say she's bad for boxing at all. She's getting eyes on the sport and she's winning world titles. So, hats off to her.
Hats off to her. And just finally, Skye, before I let you go, if you've got any closing words at all, just for the listeners or to anyone that may listen to this, I want to just kind of throw the microphone over to you, so to speak. If you want to sign out with any message at all, the floor is yours, Skye.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support. Tune in live on DAZN around the world, Saturday the 15th of October, my first title fight. It's definitely not going to be one to miss.
Absolutely, and I second that. Skye, listen, it's been a real delight and a pleasure speaking with you this week. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for October 15th Down Under, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Joey.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. The date has been officially confirmed. We're going to see the rescheduled date for Shields Marshall. It's going to be October 15th, like we thought originally when it got moved forward, but it's officially been locked in now. October the 15th at the O2 in London. Still some tickets on sale for as little as £25 each. And also, if you are a ticket holder, you have tickets from the original date, those tickets are still valid for this new date, so you can bring that ticket along and of course gain access to the venue. It's going to be a fantastic night of boxing, all women card of course, and every single fight on the card is still intact, so we haven't lost any fights. It's still going ahead as it was supposed to, of course. Okay, that's it for that piece of news. What else do we have? This one as well, it was announced just yesterday. Katie Taylor will be defending her undisputed lightweight world titles against Karen Carbajal. That one's going to be going down on October 29th at the Wembley Arena in London. It's going to be live on DAZN, of course. This will unfortunately clash with Sky Sports, they have a show that night. It's going to be Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter, so this one should clash with that one. But yeah, on the undercard, we're going to see Jordan Gill getting in with Kiko Martinez. We're going to see Gary Cully on the undercard. We're going to see the Romford Bull, Johnny Fisher, and also we're going to see Kevin Agyarko getting in with someone as well. I can't remember who he's fighting. So yeah, should be a decent night of boxing there at the Wembley Arena, October 29th, once again live on DAZN. That is it though for the news part of the show. Moving on now to the preview part. We're going to start here with this one. It goes down tomorrow night at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, USA, live on ESPN. On the undercard we have Keyshawn Davis, one of the brightest prospects really in world boxing. 5-0, getting in with Omar Bahina, who's 25-5. That's over 8 rounds there. We've also got Henry LeBron, 16-0 in an 8-rounder at super featherweight against Andy Vences, who's 23-3 with a draw. But the main event, Shakur Stevenson defending his WBC and WBO world super featherweight titles against Robson Conceição of Brazil, who's 17-1. He still has that controversial loss to Oscar Valdez, who of course Shakur Stevenson beat up quite bad. I think that was his last fight, if I'm not mistaken. Shakur Stevenson now of course a father. Yeah, I'm loving what he's been posting on Instagram. Seems like really loved up and stuff like that. Obviously friend of the show, Shakur Stevenson. Be fantastic to see him stepping in the ring here with Conceição. I want to see how much the price is for Shakur Stevenson to win that one on points, actually, because I don't see him stopping Conceição. Let me just have a little look actually while I'm here. Shakur Stevenson to win the fight on points is 8-15, so okay, that's interesting. Moving out now to the Sibor Arena in St. Petersburg, Russia. Over here, this one is on Saturday. We're going to see former world champion Fedor Chudanov, 25-3 with a draw, getting in with Farouk Jurayev, who's 7-7 with a draw. That's over 10 rounds at super middle. We also have Sergei Kuzmin, 17-2, getting in with Tian Fick, who is 9-1. That's over 10 rounds. Moving out now to the Manchester Arena in Lancashire, United Kingdom. It's going to be live on BT Sport pay-per-view this Saturday. We're going to see Echo Esserman, 17-0, getting in with Samuel Antwi, who's 14-1. That's a good fight there for the British and Commonwealth welterweight titles. We're also going to see Michael Magnesi, who's 21-0, getting in with Anthony Kakachi. It's a good opportunity really here for Anthony Kakachi. It's for the IBO World Super Featherweight title. Kakachi 19-1. Haven't seen him fight since he beat Leon Woodstock. That was over a year ago now. I think he got messed around on, I think it was the Fury White undercard. I think he was supposed to be on that one and his opponent pulled out, and yeah, so he's been quite inactive, and he gets in with Magnesi, like I say, the Italian fighter who boxed in April this year. By all accounts, he's not a bad fighter, so it should be a good fight there. On the undercard, also we have Nathan Heaney, the crowd favourite, 15-0, fighting here against Jack Flatley, who's 19-2 with a draw. That's a good fight, by the way. I really like that fight. That is a good fight. Over 10 rounds for the IBO International Middleweight title. We also have Mark Heffron, fresh off his win not too long ago. I was at it when he beat... when he beat the guy that knocked out Willie Hutchinson. Oh man, so terrible with my memory. He beat, I was at the damn fight. Lennox Clark. He beat Lennox Clark, knocked him out. So he's on this card. He gets in with Martin Bulasio, who's 10-6. That's over 8 rounds there. What else do we have on the card? We have the IBF, IBO, WBC and WBO World Featherweight Female Champion Amanda Serrano on the undercard, 42-2 with a draw, making her UK debut against the undefeated 11-0 Sarah Mahfoud. That's going to be great. I really wish I could be at this card. I was debating about going there. Obviously, I live in London. It's quite the trek. And it just wasn't really feasible this weekend. But, you know, I'll be watching it. But I would have loved to have been there. pretty much to see Amanda Serrano fight in person, but of course, I like the main event, which we're going to get onto now. Joe Joyce, 14-0. He's been training in Vegas. He fights here for the interim vacant WBO heavyweight world title against Joseph Parker, 30-2. It's over 12 rounds. It's a really, really interesting fight, actually, because I think we've said it before already, even though Joe Joyce is a big old unit and he can fight at range, he does like to get on the inside and mix it up. I guess he's quite a decent fighter really on the inside, but the inside fighting in this fight, I think, is Joseph Parker's game. And Joe Joyce seems to get on the inside with pretty much everyone he fights, and he takes risks in the pocket, and we've seen him hit with bombs as well. He's got a fantastic chin, thank God, but I don't think he can be too reckless against Joseph Parker, who has obviously moved to Morecambe, and he's been training with Tyson Fury every single day, and you yourself know what an influence he can have on your career. And it seems like Joseph Parker under Andy Lee now seems to be a fighter that's almost born again, almost rejuvenated. He seems like he's got a new lease of life going. How do you see the fight playing out? Because I think that's a really interesting thing there for Joseph Parker.
Yeah, facts. I really, really, really do think. Honestly, this is no disrespect to him. I think he gets the job done, but I've never been a huge fan of what Joe Joyce looks like. It's not necessarily aesthetically pleasing to me. Maybe it's just me. But he gets the job done. Yeah, typically he's more of an inside guy, but and he's been in there with a few fighters, like with now a champion, I think, of the WBA. What's my man's name?
Dubois,
Daniel Dubois, right? I think he's been in guys like that who are powerful and strong, but yet lack certain levels of experience and not really, don't get me wrong, he's been in there with guys with experience as well, maybe a little past it, but still with experience, but not to the magnitude of somebody who's in their prime, like a Joe Parker, who's, right now his calling card, especially in a fight with Joe Joyce, would be on the inside. Seems to be a bit sharp, a good bit sharper, a good bit faster, to the punch. Understands, what it takes to win. Been a champion before. I feel like this is really going to be a true test for Joe Joyce. It's going to be something like, a lot of people will look at him and maybe let's just say me, look at him and say, man, sometimes I just don't understand how he wins these fights and blah, blah, blah. But he does it. And this one is going to be one that's going to really say, damn, if he can win this fight, and say if he's able to stop him, that would be a really, really big step forward for him. And then I think he would be on deck for a world title. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about it. But I think, and it's that with Joe Parker being up there with Tyson, trust me, I'm going to tell you, and I know he's experiencing it, some of the toughest sparring you'll ever have if he's working with Tyson in a camp setting right now. It's really difficult. I can only explain it from my end. I'm obviously not Joe Parker, so I don't know what the feel is for him, but it's an extremely tough thing to deal with because he can come forward, he can move, you know what I mean? He boxes from the outside. He can also, like I said, come to the inside. He got super long arms, you know what I mean, that he can fight you with from outside, or he can get close and still be able to land a body shot. It's just it's a really difficult thing. So if he's able to work with that kind of guy in camp to prepare for what he's going to face in Joe Joyce, I think it's going to be. I would give the edge to Parker having that kind of camp. Like I said, I don't know if he's actually sparring with Tyson. I don't know if Tyson's helping him out for this or not. But if he is, it's definitely a leg up on the competition for sure. To have one of the top fighters in the world, maybe one of the top fighters of all time in the heavyweight division, is helping you out in camp. So Andy, obviously, and like you said, Joe Parker has been looking a lot better recently with Andy Lee at the helm. Andy Lee was a really, really good fighter, top level guy, crafty, smart. Obviously, that's going to help him in this fight as well. But I don't want to, overshadow Joe Joyce like he's not the guy that's fresher and got like he doesn't have a huge upside in this situation because he does. Maybe aesthetically he might not be the best look, but neither was George Foreman. And look what George Foreman did in his career. So it's a fight I'm excited about seeing. You know what I mean? Whether I like the look of one of the fighters or not. I mean, style-wise, not the physical look. But I'm still very excited about it. It means a lot for the heavyweight division going forward. I think Joe Joyce is a good ambassador as well as Joe Parker, for the sport. There's disdain but respect between the two. I don't think they hate each other, but it's just, one guy's in your way, so you got to knock him out the way. So, but it's an exciting time, or it's an exciting fight for this division. So, I'm looking forward to seeing, what both guys are going to do tonight in the fight.
Yeah, I have to say I'm looking forward to it as well. I really am. I'm really excited about the main event and the Amanda Serrano fight, of course. But yeah, the main event, I mean, Joseph Parker's been on this podcast many times. Really, 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 really good guy. I've got a hell of a lot of time for Joseph Parker. And we get quite honest when we're talking, on the interview, and also when the interview's finished, we talk quite honestly. And I've said it, I think, in interviews on this podcast in the past to him. I've said, look, when you boxed Alex Leopold, you looked quite awful, to be honest. When you boxed Sean Del Winters, you didn't look very good. The Junior Farr performance wasn't a good one. The first fight against Chisora, when you were down in the first round, I mean, what happened in those fights there? And obviously he was quite quick to say that things were getting very stale with Kevin Barry, his former trainer, when he's linked up with Andy Lee. Obviously, I'm not sure when exactly they did link up, when they did exactly link up, but obviously he had the rematch with Derek Chisora and was fantastic in that second fight against Chisora. That was really the best performance he'd had in about 4 years or something. So his last few performances prior to that last Chisora one were very unconvincing. And as for Joe Joyce, I mean, we still have to look at that record, 14-0, 13 KOs, and the only man to take him the distance being Bryant Jennings back in 2019. Since then, obviously, he knocked out Michael Wallish. I think that was the one where there was no crowd for COVID. And then he got in with Daniel Dubois, probably the best performance of his career. He was brilliant. After that, he did get Carlos Takam out of there in 6 rounds, but there was a few shaky moments. After that, this was his last fight. He boxed Christian Hammer. That one was at the Wembley Arena back in July. I was there. I was sat in the very front row, and he was walking into numerous massive shots from Christian Hammer. The only thing is, Christian Hammer, I don't think, was a big enough puncher to really trouble him. And as I said earlier, he's got this crazy chin. So yeah, I think if he makes mistakes like that against Joseph Parker, or allows Joseph Parker to walk in and obviously, fight on the inside and make it rough and stuff like that, I think that's going to work against him. Having said that, I think if Joe Joyce sees you as a threat and really believes that you can cause him trouble, like he did against Daniel Dubois, I think he can perform a lot better. I think he's a guy really that has to have a little bit of fear in him for him to be at his best. And that's what we saw against Daniel Dubois, and that's what we've seen in glimpses in other fights and stuff like that. I think he will look at Joseph Parker and respect him much more than he's respected a lot of his other opponents. But we're going to have to wait and see what version of Joe Parker turns up, because he does seem to be a very happy fighter. And as the saying goes, a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. All the best to both men there. Moving out to the final card to mention, it takes place on the same night. Unfortunately, it clashes with the BT Sport pay-per-view card. This one's going to be on DAZN. It's going to completely clash. It was supposed to be Lee Wood against what's that guy's name again? Oh my goodness. Anyway, Lee Wood's off the card, but the fight still goes down in Nottingham. The fight card itself without the Lee Wood and Maurizio Lara fight. That was the guy's name. So yeah, the undercard still goes ahead. We're going to see, it's a bit of a kind of, it's not a great card really, but we're going to see Chev Clark 2-0 getting in with Marcos Karolitsky, who's 7-5 with 2 draws. We're going to see Solomon Dakers 4-0 getting in with Dominic Akinlade, who's 9-3 with a draw. That's over 10 rounds there. We've also got Cyrus Patterson. This one's for the IBO Continental Welterweight title. He He's 4-0. He gets in with Jorik Luisetto, who's 12-4. We're going to see Hannah Rankin, 12-5, getting in with Terry Harper, who's 12-1 with a draw. That one for the IBO and WBA World Super Welterweight titles. I really thought that fight was going to be at welterweight. I really, really did. Okay, so it's going to be at 154 apparently, because I thought at 147 it'll probably suit Terry Harper a bit more, but it says here it's going to be at super welter. So if it's at 154, then I would say Hannah Rankin's going to be at her best weight really for the fight. She's 12-5. Terry Harper moved up several weights then, I'm guessing, to make this fight. Only had, I think, one fight since being knocked out by Baumgardner off the top of my head. I think that is some serious value in Hannah Rankin winning that fight. I think that really could be the case. She's a massive underdog, if I'm not mistaken. That's over 10 2-minute rounds there. Hannah Rankin, if nothing else, is quite tough and quite strong, and she'll have the size. And the main event as well, Maxie Hughes, 25-5 with 2 draws, getting in with friend of the show, Kid Galahad, 28-2. Hasn't been on the show for years now, Kid Galahad, but in that time he's become a world champion and lost the title. And it's for the IBO World Lightweight title over 12 rounds. I guess it's a weight really that's better suited to Maxie Hughes naturally. And obviously Kid Galahad has had to move up here from... what was he at? He was at featherweight, so he's moved up here 2 weight classes to lightweight, so from 126 to 135. But it's going to be just interesting to see what Galahad has left, because he was knocked out brutally by Kiko Martinez in November, and this is his first fight back. If he is what he was, if that makes any sense, then he should be far too much for Maxie Hughes, because he's a much better fighter all round than Maxie Hughes. But Maxie Hughes being really the true lightweight, being in some fantastic form as well, hasn't lost a fight for almost 4 years now. He's on a heck of a run. Obviously beating the likes of John O'Carroll, Giovanni Straffon, Ryan Walsh, Paul Hyland Jr. He's in such fantastic form. So it's at the best time for him, and it's at the worst time for Kid Galahad, and it's at the best weight for Maxie Hughes, and perhaps not the best weight for Kid Galahad. So there's a lot of tangibles here, and I'm really, really excited to see how it's going to play out. But we shall see. It's going to be an absolute cracker. But anyway, that is the preview part finished. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, we did the news part, and I've just wrapped it up with the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 362 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest this week, the undefeated female featherweight contender, Skye Nicolson. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been just one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show, and that is that the undercard has been announced for Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. On the undercard, we're going to see Galal Yafai defending his WBC International Flyweight title against Gohan Garcia. We're going to see Lyndon Arthur back out again, even though he fought on the weekend. We're also going to see Felix Cash getting in with the undefeated Conor Coyle. We're going to see Harlem Eubank getting in with the undefeated Spaniard David Martin. We're going to see Ellie Scottney getting in with Mary Romero for the European Super Bantamweight title. We're also going to see return to the ring for Shannon Courtney, who's been out for about a year. She gets in with Gemma Rugg. But yeah, that's about it really for that undercard. That's the main names at least. Remember, that one goes down in London on October the 8th. But yeah, that's about everything from myself. I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you this time again next week.